Hi, parents of YLC 2021. Welcome back. We all the kids survived, and we truly thank God and give thanks to God for providing health and also safety for our camp, for keeping our counselors in prayer and all your kids. It's been a wonderful week. Last week we talked a lot. Today, I'm going to go over this week, week two, some of the important topics. Again, we are focusing on faith in an anxious world. And last week, we talked about faith in an anxious world. But this week's week two, we are focusing on um, our how do we face in a world full of relationships. We're talking a lot about life in a relational world. And one of the big idea is your kids and the counselors, again with the KDG, maybe you've heard them talking about it. They get to share a lot of discussion. We believe in dialogues and also just being able to discuss a lot of important things. And the big idea for this week is mainly for them. Again, we're not here to fix anybody. We're not here because number one, we're not professionals, and we truly believe that God has a plan. And last week we learned that the stress are indicators of God, both good and bad, to show us there is potential for growth and also for us to opportunity to seek for help. But this week we are gonna help them identify pressures exists in within our families, our culture, and also our peer groups, friends, and how it is relationship, how it could be very frustrating. And parents, we know we could relate to that. I think most of our stress can are induced from work and also from family members, right? So likewise, the kids, same thing. I think God, and we believe that God designed us, regardless of how frustrating it is. Um, that God designs us to be part of the family and the group that they are in, especially with the kids, both good and bad. And we show them just a clip of Inside Out, the movie. If you haven't seen it, you should definitely watch it, by Disney. We show them how there's so much going on in our heads, and with different personalities, and how family, a lot of our frustrations could happen over dinner. And one of the things that we talked about is we're talking about the impact sometimes families can have, especially in doing so. Again, last week we talked a couple of things, how we reminded them that Jesus does not pass by. As a matter of fact, he steps into our questions and our unsteadiness, just like how we're talking about from Mark chapter 6. We dissected into the story and we learn the truths that God is teaching us. And that leads us to very important things. We told them when they're stressed, instead of ignoring it or build up unhealthy habits, we want them to turn to God and turn to themselves and ask the two questions that a lot of times we don't ask. Number one is, God, what are you doing? Are you at work? Where are you? And number two is, God, what are you trying to tell me? Is it because I'm stressed, because I'm lack of sleep? I need to stop procrastinating because it's hurting my health, or and one of the most very important thing is learn to listen. And then as they look into inward, one of the things that your children will need to ask is, they identify some of the things that they have some disagreement or possibly arguments, conflicts at home. So they get to talk about it. Yes, they get to share some things that they really probably bother them for a lot within the family unit. And we help them recognize that yes, families can be annoying sometimes. They could really get on each other's nerves. Actually, that's true. Most of the people that get on our nerves are the people closest to us. And not just family, but people in general can be annoying sometimes. And we want them to identify, we want them to know that a lot of stress could, besides with other things, could happen with people. And those people, again, could be the people closest to us. And it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly normal that that they face that. And the Bible story that we're looking into is in the New Testament, Luke chapter 5. And if you have a chance, please get a chance to read it. This is when Jesus stepped into the boat again. The people are rolling, and then Jesus told Peter to go into the deep. After Simon Peter, spent all night working on it, did everything, but didn't work. And then Jesus came along, being the respectable teacher, and he told Peter, just like a lot of us as parents, our kids sometimes tell us, "Mom, I did it," and then we seem to not trust them. And sometimes I understand we don't, because of their behavior, because of their we know them. But in this story, we find out how did Peter handle the situation. So if you have a chance, look into the story. And this week, basically, we understand what they learn is how well-intentioned people, including you and I, the teachers, parents, can add the pressure they feel. And in the midst of anxiety, it's so easy for our children, our child, to push people away and to focus on our mistakes and fears, and to, instead of growing with opportunities, they feel frustrated and they are growing in a sense of guilt. And again, the story reminds us how Peter was so stressed because he could not catch anything. So that in and of itself is a failure, let alone he was pushed to ask for help. But Jesus here, it was interesting how Jesus didn't let him pull the fish, right? And of course, if you know the miracle, basically Jesus told Peter to get into the deep, and he got so much fish from the deep that he needed to ask for help. And that's what Jesus did. He set Peter up so that he could ask for help. The stress that we have, they're inevitable, but I think behind the stress, I think that we're teaching your kids that that they are called to ask for help. And Jesus, again, we assure him, we connected him to a community, and that's so important. And from the story, we see how Peter was exposed because of his failure. He was exposed that he wasn't good, or he was inferior, whatever it is. But and you could see how Peter pushed Jesus away, saying that in the verse that said, "Leave me, Lord, I am sinful." So he was so guilty, so ashamed of his failure and he was exposed. Not only that, he was pushed to ask for help. There was so much fish that he needed to ask the people to help, which was very important, and there is some truth in it. So a couple of things that we told your kids to do. Number one is they need to build a circle of care. They need to connect. They cannot be alone. It is really hard because for a lot of the people, a lot of your kids, they won't do this until they find out something doesn't work. And I reminded them a great example of this is like driving, right? When I think when at the age of 16, they might ask you to teach them how to drive, and they get frustrated because, and we get very excited because they're 16, finally, they know so much more than the parents do, and then 16, we know something they don't, which is driving. So we get in the car, we get into these huge arguments, we are over controlling, especially if you are controlling manipulative parents. We get into a big argument, and that's how sometimes how things get turned out very nasty. But until then, they think that they're invincible. They think that they're super. But they're frustrated. Relationships are very frustrated. But we're gonna teach them this: that God designed us to be part of the family that God has put us in. And so therefore it's important that they have a group of circle of friends. And it's really interesting how Jesus, from the story, right, that Jesus reminded them, reminded Peter, we connected him, giving him new identity, giving him new perspective. I think that's important. They need to be reminded of who they are, and they're not defined by their failures and their stress. So here we remind them not to push the other people away. They need to reach out and connect. And so, a couple of things that I want you as a parent to do this week, some conversations that you could have with your child, is talk with them about how their friendship at times creates stress. Like, get involved, be interested in knowing who their friends are, what they do. Get deeper, not just yes and no. And also talk to them about their best friends. Learn their names. I know a mom that she wrote down the names of all her children's best friends. That's important. Not just stalk on them on Instagram, or they don't have Facebook, but like on Discord, or But if you really want to know, show that you really want to know. Not just like, who is he? Who is she? Peter? What does the family do? Does he like slow down, get to know them, and also have conversation about how they feel about you, how you grew up as a kid, what are some conflicts you had with your own dad or with grandpa. Okay, so that's something you could do. These are the conversation. Take a screenshot and then please work on it. Number two, here's something you could do to help. Please find someone who is not a parent to be a mentor. You could definitely get in touch with us, with myself, with some of the counselors from Starburst. You could ask them to be your kid's mentor. They need it. Trust me, they need someone else where they could look up to, they could talk to, other than both parents. I know some of you are very close to kids, which is good. So build that circle of care. Number three, encourage your children to develop and to practice to walk the following five things. And that's what we've been doing. Number one is tell them to be aware that God is with them, that God is here. They're not alone. Mom and dad are here, but God will watch over them all the time. Number two is teach them how to show gratitude, how to be thankful. Learn about, that there are friendship in their lives that they should be thankful for. And number three is tell them to, ask them, have conversation where teach them to talk about how they feel. This is very important. And I think this is very lacking in many of the families. Be comfortable, because as a parent, you're not even comfortable talking about your emotions. So please do that. And finally, forgive, let go. What are things that you need to move forward? And the last one is looking into the future. What are they excited about in the future? Those are so important things. So I hope that this week you get to talk to them again. We've been doing the lookup, which is looking into the Bible, looking into some of the research done, and look in, which is asking themselves, being honest, and look around, which is when they go home, you talk to them, and the mentor. Please remember these three postures, and we pray that your child will be good. Let me pray for you again this week, and thank you for trusting me and all the counselors. Dear God, please speak with all the parents. I know they're losing patience. We are losing patience, and we're losing strength, and we're losing influence. Please help us to regain, help us to know who we are as a parent. And then you give us that authority, that love that we need, and we're losing because we focus on the problem so much. So help us to take our eyes off, and help us as parents to share, also build a circle of care amongst the parents. Be with us, Lord. Be with our children. Guide them, give them safety, and watch over these parents. We pray all these in your name. Amen.